Former First Lady Michelle Obama, like you've never heard from her before, for the first time revealing to ABC News deeply private details about her struggle to have children and challenges in her marriage. Listen to this.
Young people out there who think that marriage is supposed to be easy, and marriage counseling for us was one of those ways where we learned how to talk out our differences. I know too many young couples who struggle and think that somehow there's something wrong with them. And I want them to know that Michelle and Barack Obama, who have a phenomenal marriage and who love each other, we work on our marriage and we get help with our marriage when we need it.
This all comes from her memoir, set to release next week. And Obama also writes in the memoir that she, and these are her words, can never forgive President Trump for amplifying the birther conspiracy. The president, in maybe the most unsurprising move this morning, responded to her.
I guess she wrote a book. She got paid a lot of money to write a book, and they always insist that you come up with controversial. Well, I'll give you a little controversy back. I'll never forgive him for what he did to our United States military by not funding it properly. It was depleted. Everything was old and tired, and I came in and I had to fix it.
Joining me right now, CNN contributor Kate Anderson-Brower. She's written 3 books about the White House, including First Women, The Grace and Power of America's Modern First Ladies, and CNN editor-at-large and politics reporter Chris Haliza. Kate, I find it fascinating that Michelle Obama opens up in the way that she did about her marriage. As the Washington Post put it today, the First Lady memoir is a rite of passage, but Obama's is different by virtue of her very identity. The first black woman to serve as First Lady. How is this likely to compare to other First Ladies' memoirs?
Well, I mean, I think that she's in this unique position, and I've written about this before, that she doesn't relate to a lot of the other First Ladies who've lived in the White House because she's the first African-American First Lady. And so she has that unique role. She has relatives who were enslaved. So she comes from a very different perspective. But I think the candor here is wonderful. I think we've been missing some of this, actually, from this First Lady in this White House. Someone who's able to talk about being a working mother. There's a story in the book where she talks about sneaking out to lunch when her daughter was young and, you know, sitting in the car and listening to the radio. And I just think that there's something very relatable about her that people gravitate towards, and the infertility struggles is another sign of that. And I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I do want to get to that. Chris, from the early parts that were revealed, the Washington Post got an early copy. She does not hold back when it comes to politics, especially when it comes to the current president. The Washington Post, quoting this from the book, the whole birther thing was crazy and mean-spirited, of course. Its underlying bigotry and xenophobia hardly concealed, but it was also dangerous, deliberately meant to stir up the wingnuts and kooks, she writes. But if someone was an unstable mind, loaded a gun and drove to Washington, what if that person went looking for our girls? Donald Trump and his loud and reckless innuendos was putting my family's safety at risk, and for this, I'd never forgive him. Never forgive him. I mean, it couldn't be more clear than that how she feels.
It's strong words, but I think it's an important point, too, which is Donald Trump either doesn't know or doesn't care. It amounts to the same thing, but what impact his words have on the people listening. So while he, I believe in my heart of hearts, doesn't really hate the media in any way, shape, or form, I think he cares deeply about what the media thinks of him and how they cover him. He doesn't know how his attacks on the media, and he did a lot of that in his press conference this morning, have an impact. He doesn't know how his attacks on other politicians have an impact on the people hearing it, Kate, not just on him saying it. And that, to me, is the concerning thing, because there's reverberations and impacts that go well beyond what Donald Trump meant when he said it. And I don't think he, again, grasps. He doesn't either grasp it or doesn't care about it. But either way, it leads to dangerous, at least potential outcomes, and that's not what we need from a president.
Kate, do First Ladies often or ever talk about the current president like this in their books?
No, I mean, you know, Spoken from the Heart, Laura Bush's memoir, is very honest about her personal life, and Nancy Reagan and Hillary Clinton all had fascinating memoirs, but no words this charged, and I think she's giving back to him some of what he's given to her. But, I mean, to Chris's point, listen to what he said about President Obama today. There's an unspoken code among former presidents, sitting presidents, not to talk about each other like this. And so he's changed the game. And so, of course, she's coming out and being very honest about him in her book.
I don't even know. I hope we have time. I want to play what she did talking about her struggles having a child. Listen to this.
I felt lost and alone, and I felt like I failed. because I didn't know how common miscarriages were, because we don't talk about them. We sit in our own pain thinking that somehow we're broken. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to talk to young mothers about the fact that miscarriages happen and the biological clock is real. We had to do IVF. I think it's the worst thing that we do to each other as women, not share the truth about our bodies and how they work and how they don't work.
I think this is huge for women to hear. Kate.
I think it's wonderful for her to come out and talk about this. We've heard a couple of other celebrities recently talk about miscarriage, but to have a former First Lady talk about this is really powerful, and I think it is something that is so private for many women, and so it's important to hear this from her, and I think that it just brings back so many memories of what she was like as a First Lady, and you would see her with young girls and hugging them in the East Room and talking about growing up on the south side of Chicago in an apartment and paying off student loans. And I just think there's this void in our culture right now. We don't have a consoler-in-chief, and we don't have a First Lady now who is relatable.
I'm going to correct myself on one thing. This isn't just important for women to hear. Chris, is important also for men to hear. You and I talk about our family struggles all the time. I want to correct myself on that one. I got to go, though, guys. It's great to see you. Thank you so much.